like for Rachel, we were just laughing everyone because we're waiting and it's like 3, 2, 1. And then you get to talk. So you're just like this awkward moment. How are you doing, Rachel? Thank you for being here today.
Thank you. I'm so good. We just got snow for the first time this year. Well, I guess this
Oh,
season, because, winter happens beginning and the end of the year. But
yeah.
yeah, I'm
Where are
really
you?
happy. I'm in Massachusetts in the US.
Oh,
So yeah, I'm a big
you
skier.
get
So I'm
snow. You get
really
the
happy about it. Yeah.
Oh, brilliant. I love that. So is it that good where you live? You can actually ski?
Well, I have to drive like an hour or two. I live at the bottom of a valley. So it's not a lot of skiing very close, but yeah, it exists. I grew up on the border of New Hampshire and Maine in the White Mountains. So my parents still live up there. So we'll go visit them for like a weekend and ski and get good food with them. Cause parents always pick like the best place to go out to dinner.
Oh, I love that. Just being able to just ski. Sounds
So fun.
gorgeous. Oh, so I was like, where are you going on holiday? I'm like, am I doing your hair? Yeah, love it. Talking about the weather, love it though.
So nice.
I'm desperate. We've had a bit of snow here, but it's not. It's not. We normally get more snow January, February, so we're no white Christmases around here. So what, Rachel? Who are you? We know where you live. What do you do? What's your mission with your business and what you're here to do with it?
Yeah, I always say I'm a freelance business coach. I teach people how to like start a freelance business and run it sustainably so you don't get burnt out and you're not getting stuck in that feast famine cycle that a lot of us get caught in the early years. But I also teach people, digital nomad, digital nomad and like digital marketing skills. And then me personally, I am a freelance writer for tech companies and small outdoor brands as well.
Oh, tech company. I'm watching Silicon Valley again.
Oh my gosh, such a good show.
Oh my God. It's so good. Who's your favorite character?
Oh gosh, I haven't watched it in so long that I cannot remember their names, but what's his name? The guy who gets the Tesla and then he has to get like the fanciest possible rims. His ego is so big that it is just comical. Like it just makes me laugh because it's like the only way you can succeed in a startup or a business, like the one like being a solopreneur or in a small team of 4 or 5 people, is to let your ego slowly die, really, And so it's just like you watch the you watch the crash and burn on that show. It's
Yeah.
so funny. It's such cringe comedy.
Oh, it's such cringe comedy. It just lights me up. My favorite is Jared, aka Donald. And when we watched it before, my husband had got me this weird cuddly doll. They're called fugly dolls. And now it's like this sort of tradition that he buys me one every year. So I've got
Yep.
loads. And so I named the first one Donald because I just felt sad for Jared never been called his first name. And then have you watched Parks and Recreation?
Yes, also a
See,
fantastic show.
Gary Gerditz, they've got another one called
Yes.
Gary because he was never given the right name.
That is so funny. Also, like Zach Woods, he's the one who plays Jared, right? Zach
Yeah.
Woods is like, his face is just a little bit sad. Like he has to play a slightly sad character, He was also in Avenue 5, and his character in that show was absurd. It was so
I've
funny.
never heard of that. But
Oh,
because
it's a
obviously he was in
spaceship
the
cruise ship.
office.
Oh,
Say
he
that
was in The
again.
Office?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Oh, God.
I never watched The Office. Which is brilliant. I never I've never watched The Office. That's so funny. It's too cringy for me. Like I'm scared. I feel too much empathy for the character. You know what I mean? It's just too cringe.
What, The Office? Yeah.
Yeah.
100%. And I felt the same because I've watched the UK version because obviously that's the OG version.
Yeah. Yeah.
Watched that like when it first came out, and then me and my husband were just like, what can we what like we you needed a bit of comedy to just end the day, so we thought, okay, we'll do The Office, and oh my goodness, it's so good. And I said to my husband, we finished it, I went, shall we just watch it again? But it's like in Schitt's Creek, Parks and Rec, The Office. I mean, Schitt's Creek, I need to watch that again. I just love that too. So
Yeah. We
yeah.
did that with Ted Lasso. We watch it at least once a year. Like it's just so good.
Ted Lasso's brilliant. It's the same kind of thing. It's just like that. It's so good. We are so lucky for all of these amazing shows.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
I'm going to check out Avenue 5. I'm going to find it now because I
It's
love
funny. I think you'll like it. I think you'll like it.
Oh, love it. So anyway, so you write for tech blogs, and the reason I've literally just watched the bit where it's like Ehrlich and they've just got all this investment, and they're like, oh, we've got like the tech blogs and up against some PR, and they're all when they've just Pied Piper's just coming up. Anybody that's not watched Silicon Valley and anybody that's not watched it and is a business owner, I think it's the best comedy for an entrepreneur.
Oh, sorry. You know what I just realized? For some reason, it configured to pull from my laptop microphone, not my actual microphone.
Just swap
it's not letting me swap it, I think, because it's recording.
Don't worry, because the sound is fine.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Fine. We'll go with it. Okay.
No worries.
I was like, oh crap. Okay. Sorry.
So I don't think I even asked you anything. Just sitting here laughing, Rachel.
Just having chats.
Oh my goodness. Right. So let's go back. So this is what you do. Tell me the business love story. How did it all begin?
Yeah, I really wanted to hike the Appalachian Trail, do a through hike, and that is 6 months of time that you cannot be like working in person somewhere. And I also knew in the future I would want to do van life. So those are both like, you need a job that you can do on the internet anywhere, anytime. So I started watching, I'm like an avid YouTube watcher, and I just noticed that like most of the people who were doing the things I wanted to do were freelancing or blogging or both. This was in 2017, so blogging was a little bit different back then. But I ended up starting my own blog for my through hike, and I got a bunch of sponsors to sponsor some of my gear, because I was working at a outdoor outfitter and a coffee shop when I made this decision after quitting my job in a law office. I went to school to be a teacher originally. I decided that education in the US is really messed up, and I didn't like working in classrooms because of the state regulations. So I was like, oh, I'll reform education, because I'm just such an optimistic person. And so I got my teaching license, changed my degree path. At the end, I had a minor in political science, and I switched to do a double major, working overtime to get this poli-sci degree. Ended up thinking oh, I could go to law school. That would be helpful. I'm working in law offices, taking the LSAT, just trying to see what's going to work. I worked on a political campaign just to figure it out. I was writing state level policies in Massachusetts, and none of it felt good. My mental health was just deteriorating every single day. It was really not good for me. And I just felt really hopeless. Politics, the political system in the US especially, I was so disillusioned by it. I was such an optimistic young person. So I went home to stay with my parents for a little while, ended up working at Starbucks because they gave health insurance, and an outdoor outfitter. And that's where I sort of stumbled upon the more adventurous lifestyles that I ended up pursuing later on. And I just figured out that I love writing. I love sharing my story. And I built that blog up to 500 readers per blog, basically. I had a very loyal following, and I built an email list and stuff like that. And after I finished the trail, I was I don't know what to do. I guess I'll just keep writing. And I ended up getting some clients on Upwork, and just realizing oh, Upwork is really difficult to be successful on, and I don't want to be stuck with this forever. So I moved on to getting clients through LinkedIn instead, and actually networking and making genuine connections with people, having virtual coffee chats. And I had stumbled into a gig on Upwork working for Course Report. They're a coding bootcamp review site. I was writing blogs for them, and I realized that no one specializes in writing for coding boot camps. I couldn't find anybody who was that was their title on LinkedIn. And so I figured I can probably show up in a lot of searches if I just changed that, because no one else is doing it. And coding boot camps, they're so small, their staffs are so small that they do outsource a lot. So I was like, dope, I'm going to do that. And then I took the list of coding boot camps that were reviewed on Course Report and made that my ideal clients list. And I just connected with people who worked at those coding boot camps. I connected with probably like 200 different coding boot camps. And I suddenly, for the first time in my freelance career, 2 years in, was like fully booked all the time. In fact, overbooked. And I could like finally raise my rates. And I was like, what is happening? This is all you have to do is specialize and like systematize your outreach. Like, what? This is mind blowing. I had no idea. Like, I had been in the feast famine cycle for 2.5 years at that point and still working a part-time job as a coffee shop manager because I couldn't, I felt like I couldn't crack the code. And in reality, I like would only do marketing and networking when I desperately needed clients. And so if you are actually just like doing it all the time in a very chill, casual, low effort way, it's much easier to go and follow up with people to get clients than it is to like start from scratch with cold pitches every time you need to go get clients. Yeah. So I really built my foundation there. And then after a few years, I was like, I can't charge more than $300 a blog. No one wants to pay that. I was getting a lot of pushback on my rates because I kept raising them because I was like in demand and overbooked and I had all these skills now. I had taken a bunch of SEO certification courses and I was just like, well, I gotta make more money than this. And one of my friends suggested looking into just like tech startups because a lot of the people who went through coding boot camps end up at tech startups is kind of adjacent and their businesses are run very similarly. And then I ended up just like ooching into tech slowly and raising my rates 10 cents a word with every new client I got. And now here we are.
It's a lovely love story, isn't it?
It's just, I kind of started to view it as more of a game. It's like, how many connection requests can I send? How many friends can I make? How can I make this fun instead of like stressful, you know? Yeah. And it enabled me to like go through Hike, which was the experience of a lifetime for me. Like it totally changed the way I think about the world, the way I think about myself, like my self-confidence, pushing through hard things, like determination, all of these things. There's so much discomfort in through hiking and it really forces you to sit with yourself and your thoughts and become a better person. Like if you through hike and you're not becoming a better person in some way, like I don't know what you're doing out there. It just forces you to. And then after that, like doing van life, again, an adventure of a lifetime. But all of these experiences, I just learned so much. And it made it so that I can actually just be happy with myself in my life. And I don't need to constantly be like pushing the envelope, finding something. I'm not chasing these external things anymore. I'm chasing like having a nice business, having a nice life. Like I genuinely love having my business. I cannot imagine working a full-time job at this point for somebody else, you know? So that the way that it can be a vehicle for the life you want to live, I think is so much more fun and valuable than the part where it's like money, you know? It's not the money that I'm chasing. It's the lifestyle that it provides for me and the flexibility I get to have, you know?
Yeah. I love, well, you're in my boat. I absolutely agree with all of that. A couple of things I would love to talk to you about how blogging has changed. But before we talk about that, I just want to go back to how you changed through, you know, doing all of these things. Is there one thing, I know this is a tough question, but is there one thing one way you've seen the world differently that has changed or enriched your life more than other things?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I definitely think that the way our society is engineered in Western cultures especially is to silo us. Like it forces you to be an individual. Like the bigger the house, the more successful you are. The higher your fence, the more successful you are, right? And it pushes you away from community and it like basically makes it so that your life is harder to live all the time. Like you now have to pay to go to the gym because you're not just like going out and going on hikes or walks with your friends. You're now like trying to cook every single meal for yourself rather than sharing in community and supporting each other. And mentally you're pushed more to be on your own. And then you're paying for therapy, right? Like all of this individualistic, even the apps that we use every day, like don't get me wrong, I love TikTok, but it feeds you what you like And so it keeps you in that lane. Like there's so many people who are shocked by the election this year in the US because the only content they're being fed is content from the political party they already affiliate with. They're not interacting with people in the other political party every day because that's just not in their community and it's not being fed to them on social media, and they're not going out and seeking out that information. And you shouldn't have to go out and seek it. Like you should just be seeing it because you live in a diverse community. And like this is how a lot of divisiveness, especially in the US, has been able to be implemented so easily and so rapidly now because we're very individualistic, especially in this country. And so especially when I went on my thru hike, like I'd never been to the South before. Coming from Maine, I was like, oh, I probably don't even need pants. And I'm like hiking out there in March because in my mind, I'm like, oh, the South is warm. I ended up having to like buy pants while I was out there and like a jacket, like all these things I just didn't expect. Like I didn't know there were these massive mountains. Like one of the highest mountains on the East Coast is actually on the border of North Carolina and Tennessee. And I was like, what? What is this doing here? There's all this snow. It's like 3 feet of snow. And I'm like,
isn't that
in
Dolly
shorts.
Parton country? That's like, yes. Oh,
and like how little I even knew about Dolly, or like just there are so many people there who are, because I grew up in politics and I went to college for politics, I can see the dividing line so clearly in my head from the theories that I was taught. But then you meet people and it's like, I was hitchhiking one time in Tennessee because it was so cold that my toes were numb and they were turning purple. And I was like, I really don't want to get frostbite. So I hitchhiked into a town so I could like warm up for the night. And I was just going to go out and day hike the next day, get a ride. And this guy picked me up in a Jeep, and I got in the car and he was like, do you have a gun? And I was like, no. And he was like, do you want a gun? You are a little girl. You should not be through hiking Appalachian Trail without a gun. And I was like, what? I've never even like thought about having a gun because in the Northeast, it's just not as common. And it was just such an interesting conversation. He was genuinely just worried about my safety. He didn't care like what my political affiliation is. Like, he's like, oh yeah, my daughter through hike the Appalachian Trail. I was worried about her the whole time. I'm so glad you're safe. Where do you need to go? And he like drove me to an inn and with no expectations. Like I tried to give him money for gas and he was like, don't even worry about it. I'm so glad you're having a good time out there. Like just a nice dad. And then he drives away and has like, you know, the sticker of the Republican Party on his car. And I'm just like, wow, like it's just mind blowing because we're just taught that, you know, we're just being separated more and more constantly. And so it opens your eyes, and it opens your eyes to the way other people are living and like the wealth disparities, and just like there's so many communities out there as well. Like I ended up staying with this couple who they have like a self-sustaining farm that they live on. It's like all solar power. You can't take a shower unless it's during the day because the water will be cold because their water's heated by the sun. And they have chickens and they have this whole community, and they like took us, one of their friends was building a house and out of mud. And so they like took us to help them build their house, and they were so nice, and their community was like the most important thing to them. And it was so vibrant, and they were just like happy to take care of me for a week while I recovered from an injury. And I was just like shocked by the generosity of the people I met and the diversity of the people I met. And so after that, I was so much more like interested in connecting with people. And like that's part of why I started the podcast, because I wanted to hear how other people's lives had changed from through hiking and like their perspectives on the world, you know? And I think that traveling very slowly in your own country and exploring and getting to know people can just really change your mind. Like I never would have thought, like 10 years ago, my ideal house would be like in the middle of nowhere where I'm like half a mile from my neighbors. I have my own private yard. I don't have to talk to anybody. Like I was such a loner. And now I live in a condo community. My closest neighbor, like I can literally look in their window right now, and they're the sweetest people. Like we share meals and we dog sit each other's dogs. They're going to Malaysia for 2 months. We're taking care of their dog for that 2-month stretch. Like it is the nicest thing to know that I can just go knock on their door and ask for help or company, you know? There's like no loneliness here. You're not gonna be lonely in this neighborhood. And it's really special, but I don't think a lot of people necessarily get to experience that anymore. You know, you have to like intentionally seek it out.
And that is definitely how society has changed. That, like you say, with status, the more apart you become because of the size of the house. That society says you must be successful, therefore you must have a big house. it's, and you're right, of being about intentional, but the other thing of being like, we're on opposite sides of the world. And then
Totally.
you just have a wonderful conversation, and how much the internet has just literally, it just opens up the world. I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
And God, so many questions came up for me when you were talking. That there was so much that I was interested in, because obviously the politics over in your country has it settled down a little bit now since the election? I know the inauguration's in January, isn't it? But
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how January is. I think that it depends on where you live. Like, I live in Massachusetts has always been a very liberal place. Like,
yeah,
we have Trump supporters down the street from us, but they're not like, they're not violent. They're obviously not swaying votes in in a way to like change. But where I live, it's like every other house, if you drive down a street, is like Kamala Trump, Kamala Trump. It's very evenly spread out if there is diversity. And I definitely live in a town where like you can go to I live in a smaller town, so like you can go to the diner and like sit at the bar at the diner, and every political affiliation is there and everybody's talking about it, and it's not a problem. But there's definitely places where it's like more dangerous to talk about, or like you can tell that things are just going to change, you know? But I think there's a fine line between like paranoia and precaution and like being informed. But I've never felt like I've needed to prepare before for like an incoming presidential change. Like, I've never felt like I needed to be worried about it. So it's definitely, things are changing in a way that I'm not super pleased with. But at the same time, it's like, I am in a super privileged place. I live in a very safe place. So I'm really grateful for that. And I acknowledge the privilege, and I'm trying to prepare in ways that I can help other people in our community. Because we also live in a place where like there are tons of immigrants, and there's plenty of like, we have a lot of social systems here. And Massachusetts is like very devoted to protecting immigrants. Like, they already said they're not going to participate in the DA already said they're not going to participate in deportation. Right. So that could be a really good thing, or it could result in military force. Like, who knows? You know what I mean? It's really hard to say what could actually happen, because there's so many things that were said on the campaign trail that are already being reneged, you know? So it's also just crazy because I have so much knowledge about politics because of my education that I can see things in from a different point of view than a lot of my friends, because I know, I'm like, that's just political strategy. Like, that's just them trying to get your vote that isn't real, versus the things that I'm scared about. My friends are like, we should be prepared. Okay. Gotcha, you know?
For over it.
Right. Yeah, totally. So I don't know. It's just been such a, like, it's like weird, just weird. Like, I don't know how else to describe it. It's surreal. It's kind of like COVID was so surreal. It's not as surreal as that, but it is a little bit. And like, when January 6th happened, January 6th is my birthday. And I was backpacking in the woods and in North Carolina. And I like came out of the woods and went to like get something at a convenience store. And the lady heard that we had been in the woods backpacking and that we didn't have any cell service. And she was like, oh my God, you didn't hear what happened. And she's showing us on her phone what happened. And I was like, is this fake? Like, is this fake news being spread, or is this genuine? Like, is this real? Because like CGI has gotten so good. Like, I was like, this could be fake. And it was real. And it's just, I don't know. It's just an interesting time to be alive, I guess, for me, but in a point of extreme privilege, I feel, you know?
Yeah. And that, like, going back to the fact that you're such an optimist, and I think that serves you so well in this kind, like you're saying, like, this is the world we live in. It's 4 years, you know, it will pass. Mm-hmm. And, you know, it's like, it's difficult, isn't it? Like, things will have to change, because as in there's going to be an end point. Just when that end point arrives, it will be. But yeah, I feel I was very interested in the whole election, and I don't know how the US feels about when we have elections. We had a massive change of government in the summer, and it's I mean, in the UK we have more options. There's more, whereas the US is literally just two people, either one or the other. Yeah, and in this country, there are, I think there's 3 major parties. There's 2 that are in the running. But it's just, I felt so refreshed by the new change, but I think I would have felt like that anyway, because though, like, the last party had been in power for like, oh my gosh, 15 years or something.
Yeah.
So everything, so that's the downfall of our government, our politics system, because if they get in, they can stay around for a really, really long time.
It's much longer. Yeah.
It's really long, so it was refreshing. And I think I would have felt refreshed whether the party I'd voted for had come in or not, because we just needed a rejig. But oh my God, they've taken some quick action.
Yeah.
Changing stuff. And so many people were like, oh my God, it's too much, because you've got to change your government, change your policy, change all of this stuff. It's like, yeah, but let's see, these kinds of changes are required to see if they make a difference. And it's that saying, you can try something again and again and again. That's a definition of insanity. Let's try something different right now, because there is a need. My husband works in rehousing, and as you know, we've got a lot of social services for people in this country, and he works with people that are facing homelessness, and he finds them accommodation for the local authority. And this is needed because homelessness is increasing. And it's not rough sleepers, because in this country, we do have rough sleepers, but it's not the same extent as it is in the US. But we've got families just all in one room who can't move. That version of homelessness where you're homeless, you haven't got a secure place. And it's family, it's children, it's, so hoping something good for them. Right, so I've really enjoyed that politics course talk. But I don't know about your podcast, but sometimes you're like, I'm really interested in this. I could talk about this for the whole episode.
I know, totally.
You're serving more people than just yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
So for all listeners, we're going to talk about the stuff that, I'm sure some of you found it very interesting. So blogging.
Yes.
You mentioned that there's been change. How has blogging changed since you've been in the industry? And is there any point in anybody getting into blogging at this stage?
Yeah, I think it depends on how you're talking about blogging. So I think that business to business blogging is definitely still very much alive and well. I think that blogging for very specific types of client acquisition. So for example, my friend Polly is a search engine optimization expert.
I know Polly.
Oh, Polly Clover. Oh, no way. I love Polly. She's the best, isn't she?
What?
Yay.
Sid. Oh,
she's my bestie. Yes, she's in Pop Club, my membership community for freelancers. She watching her grow over the past 3 or 4 years that I've been working with her is insane. She's just such a gem, and she's always striving to do more and do better. And in the past 2 years, she really focused on optimizing her own website for search, and she's getting a lot of client inbound leads from that search engine optimization. So in her case, obviously, it makes sense. I think for a lot of service providers, it can make sense. But I think personal blogging is so much harder than it used to be. Starting a blog for my thru hike wasn't that hard. I was able to get sponsors. I didn't run PPC ads or anything like that on my blog. I just had sponsorships from specific brands that were relevant. So my shoes were all provided by La Sportiva. That was their sponsorship. Or a lot of my meals, 30% of my meals were sponsored by Mountain House, and they sent me their freeze-dried meals for the trip. That was very easy for me to get into. I mean, easy as in I called the sales rep every day for a month or two until they said yes to something.
Yeah, again. Chase off for God's sake.
Howdy, Ryan. I'm back again. You gonna give me shoes or not? I think that one thing I really learned from that experience, and from pretty much every experience I've had since college, is persistence really is key. And that's very much true of freelancing as well. Follow, the only way you're going to get anything is from following up. So don't be afraid to follow up. But also SEO has changed a lot. Now we have those AI generated snippets, and originally snippets were directly pulled from blog posts, and it was just the FAQ drop downs. Remember that? They still exist, but that was the most recent big change before AI was really implemented into Google searches. And that was such a big deal, like for our clients. Like we were like, oh, you should put FAQ so you can get a snippet. And it was like such a win if you got a snippet. And now the snippets are further down the page. And now AI is like summarizing these blogs, and it's not always accurate.
No.
And at least the link is there, but the click-through rate is just so much lower. And it just looks a lot different. I think the way to make money from personal blogging is now more affiliates and ads being run on your site and being very specific, like recipes or people who are doing like the fashion breakdowns and offering like alternative options for those fashion breakdowns. They're doing really well because of affiliate links. But I think like a personal blog about the Appalachian Trail is a little bit too niche to be successful now in a lot of ways. Like it's just become different and more challenging, and the way you speak to search engines is very different than it used to be, you know?
And do you think blogs still serve for SEO purposes?
I think they do if you're speaking out a specific topic. Yeah, you have to niche for sure.
Because what's really, from my understanding, the blog is going to pull people, get more eyes on your website, but they're going to just click out.
Yeah.
Because, they found somebody that can support them in whatever they're looking for.
Yeah. I see my blog as just a way for people to find my name.
Yeah.
And they'll like get a little taste of my personality. They might learn something, but then they're gone. And hopefully they click through to my free resources, where you have to put in your email to get the majority of my free resources. And the email is just really where I'm doing the majority of my persuasive marketing that's actually helpful. Like a blog is a way to drive traffic. It's not a way to convert people. But also just like ranking on Google is becoming like more difficult every day, in my opinion. But you just have to keep up with it, or hire someone who can keep up with it, like Polly.
Yeah. I've generated all of these pages with my VA for the podcast on the website, and on Wix it's called Dynamic Pages, and I was like, yes, I've mastered it. I have the SEO for the show notes. I've got all SEO in there. I've got the video. You can listen audio. This is working. Discovered that Google had not indexed any of these pages. They've just been in unsearchable for months.
No.
Oh my God. Yeah. So I discovered this 2 days ago, not 2 months, 2 days ago. And so I'm just literally indexed this site. Oh, you've reached your quota. I'm like, oh. So yeah, I'm at that point where I'm like, yeah, Polly. Yeah, Polly.
Ring, Polly. Yeah, Polly's really great. Yeah. And if you're looking for someone, like Polly's really great. I've also worked with Trio SEO as well. Stephen Schneider is their CEO. He came on my podcast recently, actually. He has, even if you want to do DIY, he also has really good content. So the two of them together are like my SEO squad. And I'm definitely like very slowly improving on that. It's not my highest priority because I feel I'm more persuasive with content marketing on LinkedIn and my email marketing. But I think that it's also helpful. Again, it depends on your business, depends on your goals. If you're like a business to business situation, go blog. If you're making recipes, go blog. But if you're a service provider, you really have to figure out what is actually moving the needle for you and understand like SEO is a long game. So like maybe post 2 blogs a month. And then once you start getting inbound leads from it, put more effort into it and be very specific and targeted about it. Like get a key search subscription or work with someone like Polly who can do that for you. But know that that's definitely a long game. And if you're looking for short-term opportunities, it depends on your clientele. I think for like coaches, content marketing is really the only way. Like if you're DMing people about your coaching services, I don't know, it feels a little slimy. It just doesn't feel very comfortable to me.
I hate it.
Yeah.
We did it the other day and they said to me, I bit. And I normally just ignore, but I thought, no, because it was the way that where they intend it to, when they're messaging, it's always about like, you could be better.
Yeah.
You've got the magic. And I just bit and I thought, you've no idea. Tell me about my business then. If you've been watching for so long and listen, when they quote the latest podcast and you're like, mate, honestly, you've literally just listened. You haven't even listened to it, have you? Anyway,
Try harder.
Yeah. And this guy said, can I send you can I send you a video of giving you some insights? And I said, yeah, you do that. And I'm going to send you one back as a thank you. He went, okay, sounds like a fair deal. He sent me one, and he obviously used Loom. So he was on my Instagram, and it was great.
Mm-hmm.
But it was no personalization. There was no like, you could be doing this more. You could be doing. And I was like, you've not looked at my content. You don't know my strategy. You don't know that I'm purposely and intentionally creating nurture, attract, and sales. You don't know nothing about me. And I was like,
Yeah.
I tell you what, I'm not your dream client. I am not going to. But anyway, I went off on one. I said, this is how you could do it. So, anyway, sorry, I went
It's such a challenge. No. It's such it's such a red flag to me if you're a coach getting clients in the DMs. Like, if you're a coach, you should be doing attraction marketing. In my humble opinion, you should be putting your frameworks out there however you can. If you want to attract more people, guest on podcasts, get guest workshops. If you're doing a good job, you will be asked to guest on podcasts. You will be asked to do guest workshops. I like reach out to people to find those opportunities, but the majority of the ones that have actually brought me clients were people reaching out to me because of the content that I was creating.
Yeah.
So, like, as a business owner, you just need to know where your clients are coming from. Like, for my digital marketing, my freelance writing business, I am doing direct outreach to the key people at the businesses I want to work for and getting to know them, connecting with them, following up with them, personalizing those messages. And if they tell me they don't want it, I take them off my list. You know what I mean? But I am persistent with offering my help, not with saying, I'm going to fix all your problems. You're a mess. Like, I noticed that personally when I was a newer freelancer, I would scroll on Instagram and I would see like 5 mistakes you're making as a freelancer, or like 10 things you need to do better with, or like your mindset, whatever, like these really negative hooks. I hate hooks to begin with, but I hate negative hooks. I want to see you as a freelance coach say, here's exactly how I made $8,000 this month. Let me break it down for you. Let me show you which ones are going to pay in net 30. Let me show you how many hours this actually took. Let me show you how I actually got this client. Like, I don't want you to be telling me the mistakes that I made. Like, that just reels in this negativity. And then you're not giving any solutions. It's like, bro, please, this is just me, you know? And it kept me stuck because I constantly was like, oh, I'm doing everything wrong. Someone else knows that there's a right answer. They know what it is. And I don't know what that is. So now I'm stuck in this situation, rather than if I saw content that was like 3 ways you can get clients today. Here are 5 templates for it. Bam, I would hire that person because I'm like, that is so helpful. Like, I can try it. I can get a mini win, but they're still not giving away all their knowledge for free. I mean, that's how I make my content. I guess I'm like really bragging on myself, but it's just like, know your audience and know where your leads are coming from. So like for Polly, she's attracting people who want help with SEO marketing. It makes sense that she is focused a lot on her blog and that she's getting leads from Google. And like, say you're like a wedding photographer, the majority of her work obviously is going to be local. So use those local SEO tags to reel in people who are, say, in the Mount Washington Valley, because that's where you're located. Awesome. That is a really good way to go about it. Or attract those clients with Instagram marketing. It's like, you have to sort of look at the clients you want, see where they're hanging out, and then figure out your funnel from there very intentionally. And sometimes it's going to take experimenting. But I think a lot of people just think that there's like a right answer. There's a right way to do marketing, and that is true for pretty much every business. But every business is different. Even one wedding photographer to the next is going to be different. You might have an adventure elopement photographer versus a photographer who only does indoor venues. You know what I mean? Like, you don't want that adventure elopement photographer taking your indoor venue photos. That's a totally different specialty.
Yeah.
And that adventure elopement photographer is going to do really, really well on Instagram because that's where hikers and adventurers hang out, versus that local venue photographer is going to do really, really well on Google SEO because they can use location-based tags. They can become recommended vendors on that list of the venues that they're working at, right? So like, they're 2 photographers who only do weddings, but still their client acquisition and their marketing strategies are going to be entirely different. And I think it's just important to remember, like, there's no right answer. You can do whatever you want as long as it works for you. And you just have to figure that out. That's the key to success, is like the experimenting. It's not having the right answer, you know?
Yeah. And that's the thing. When if you know what works for you, together with knowing who you are and what sets you up and it will set you alight, and you bring those things together with a really like a business that brings you so much joy, even though not everything we do for our business is totally joyful. But
Yes.
all of the get-tos that we get to do, you know, all of these wonderful things, like this is work.
Yes.
Like this is great, you know, so gorgeous.
This is the best work.
This is the best work. But you get to do that and you mix it all up together, but with just a patience and a trust that as long as you follow that path, that everything is going to work out. Like you just lead in with who you are, your instincts, you will attract the people that are perfect for you. And like you say, you've got a membership, I've got a membership. Somebody said to me recently, isn't it brilliant how everybody in the Vivid Business Club is just so lovely and supportive? And then she was like, just like you. And I was like, your vibe attracts your tribe. So
exactly.
if you want to hang out with people like me, need to get in my membership because that's where they all are, you know? Like, I think people don't feel that that's enough.
Yeah.
So much more than they can even dream of that's enough.
I think a lot of people, there's sort of two things that hold people back when it comes to like actually being authentic and attracting the right people, your people, right? There's comparison. Like when I first started freelance coaching, like I wanted to be like Colleen Welch, who runs the Freelance Writers Guide. I wanted to be like Alex Catoni of the Copy Posse. Alex Catoni has 10 years of like TV broadcast and advertising experience. Why am I comparing myself to her? Right?
Yeah.
Like Colleen just has a completely different attitude. She only does email cold pitching. That's not even how I get my clients. Why do I want to be like her? Like, this doesn't make any sense. As soon as I started actually talking to those real people behind those brands, like me and Colleen became friends. We hung out when I lived in my van. Like I went and visited her in Ohio. She lives in Cleveland. And I was like, wow, this is so crazy. We're friends. And it's like just someone that you saw on the internet that you're just comparing yourself to. You don't know their whole story. Like when I learned her whole story, I was like, oh my God, we're actually like, our unique selling points are completely different. But I think it's the second part of that is that we want to know it's going to work right away. And it actually takes time. Like the majority of freelancers I coach, it takes about 3 months to get their first client. Like I've had people get their first client in 21 days. I've had people get it in 30 days. But the majority of people, it's going to take 3 months because they're stumbling through all their roadblocks before they get that first client. And to expect yourself to have results in a week or two is outrageous. And like to expect your first launch to sell out, which I did, and that be the sign of success.
Optimistic again.
Totally. And like I think it's okay to be optimistic, but like to expect your first launch with 10 slots to sell out, the majority of people are learning about you from the majority of the eyes on that. That's the first time they're ever seeing you. They're not going to buy the first time they see you. They're going to buy the 7th, 12th, 20th, 30th, 50th time they see you. I saw a pair of Halara pants on a TikTok ad 50 times before I bought it. I counted because I just want to see what happened. I was going to buy the pants anyway. But like, you know what I mean? Like you don't know when people are going to have money. You don't know who's saving up. You don't know who's following you. You don't know the perfect right thing you're going to say. Like someone said to me the other day, I saw your post about, what even was it? It was like a very specific post they saw. I'd never made a post like that before in my life. It was very personal. And they were like, that's why I signed up. And I was like, wow, well, you wouldn't have signed up 2 years ago if that's what got you to sign up because I wasn't making posts like that back then. So you have to be in it, just like SEO, just like business in general. You have to be in it for the long game. Your first 2 years is just like learning. Like you are a baby deer on ice. Even if you've done this service before, even if you worked for a coaching consortium and you've been coaching for years, or even if you worked for a company and you ran their SEO department, that doesn't mean you're going to have a successful SEO business right away because you have to learn how to do the business. And this, you know what I mean? Like being a service provider is running a business, and that's a lot harder than it seems. It's not that you can't do it, but it's like you have to give it time for things to marinate and come to fruition. Like you're not eating you're not drinking scotch that was brewed last week. You're drinking 20-year-old scotch. And those companies had to wait 20 years to sell their first bottle of scotch, but they were building up their company base that whole time, right? Like You just have to think about that long game and how it's just building and building and building and building to the point you want to get to. And it's not going to feel like it clicks until you're on like step 20. You know what I mean? Like my first year, my first year as a coach, I was like, I'm going to sell out my 10-person launch for this live program. It's going to be so great. I got like 4 people to sign up. I felt like a total failure.
Got 4 people just sign up.
And that's like a straight up miracle. I had like maybe 1,000 followers on Instagram, and I only launched on Instagram. I didn't do any email marketing. Like I had no idea what I was doing, but I learned so much from that, right? And you have to go through the part where you don't know what you're doing and you try it anyway to get to the part where now I'm like, I can confidently launch for one-on-one coaching for 5 spots, and I know I'm going to sell it out every time. And there's always that like launch magic you have to wait for in the middle where it's like you get 2 signups right away, and then the last day you get the rest, right? But that middle part is still important because you have to nurture them. And like the same with getting clients, like with direct outreach, the way I do for my digital marketing, like the first week that I'm sending out those follow-ups and I'm trying to get clients, I'm like, oh, am I going to get a client? Am I going to get a client? And then the last week, as soon as one person bites, you get like 5 other people and you're like, shh, now I'm going to be overbooked, you know? It's always how it goes. Right when you want to give up, everything comes through, right?
Yeah, it's lit the dark. It's always darkest before the dawn.
Always.
You just hold on. Oh, wait, this is a song. I feel like it's a Shania Twain.
Hold on for what? Yeah, totally.
Yeah, hold on, because the magic is in just that little, that tiny bit of twist that you need to make over the mountain.
It's the same with like have you ever run? Do you run at all? Yeah, it's the same with running. That first mile, it's like, oh my God, I want to die. I'm going to give up. And then mile 3, you're like, wow, glad I pushed myself. It feels great.
Yeah. Oh, but I find it really difficult on the last stretch home.
Yes.
And I ran far enough. I could just walk now. I mean,
Yes.
I need to cool down. So really, it's like, oh my God, no, I go in. Then I cool down. I haven't finished the run. And this is, it's just like.
It's funny because like all these stupid cliches that we like roll our eyes at, like go the extra mile. It's always darkest before the dawn. You know what I mean? Yeah, you don't know what you got till it's gone. Like all these things, they're cliches for a reason, people. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. We write a book about cliches. One else thing, I'm loving this, Rachel. Again,
so good.
I could talk all day with you, I think, about lots of different things. I think we're in the we're in the same boat. We've got the same kind of mindset about things.
You're going to have to come on my podcast.
Oh, please. That would be lush. Let's book it in after this.
Perfect.
But you love LinkedIn, don't you? Same as Polly.
God,
and I've had that. I love that you're friends. I remember now me saying, anybody fancy coming on the podcast? She was like, Rachel Meltzer, and she tagged you on my Instagram. Not Instagram, LinkedIn. I remember now. But anyway, I could talk. I just love Polly. I could talk about her all day. But you love LinkedIn, and for me, I try, and this is purely selfish, actually. For me, I know I have got clients there, potential people that I can help. How can I look at it like it's a bit of Instagram? So I will use it.
Yeah, I mean, I think one thing is like you don't really have to. Something I really learned the hard way is that despite the fact that your ideal clients might be hanging out there, if it's not flowing out of you in a way that like exudes your personality, you're so excited to post there, you are making friends, you're happy to be there, like, why are you doing it? You know what I mean? Like, if you're just doing it, like, this is part of why I don't really repurpose content. I do want to repurpose content eventually, but I want to hire someone to do it. But I used to exclusively market on Instagram. And during my thru hike, it was relatively enjoyable. And then as soon as my thru hike was over, I was like, I have to do this. Have to show my lifestyle and like reel people in. I have to do these like 5 mistakes, lead, whatever hook bullshits that people do. And whenever I don't do the hooks and the reels and all the requirements of Instagram and post every hour on my stories, nobody cares. And the algorithm changed every week on Instagram. You know what I mean? It was just hard for me and I really didn't like it. I didn't do content marketing on LinkedIn until September a year ago. I was at my partner's house and I was like, sick of Instagram, so sick of posting on Instagram. He was like, then why are you doing it? And I was like, well, like I have to for my business. And he was like, well, what's your return? And I was like, I don't know, like 0.2%. And he was like, well, you're on LinkedIn all the time anyway, doing like networking. Why don't you just post on LinkedIn? And I was like, yeah, I guess LinkedIn is kind of taking off. And he was like, LinkedIn is taking off. I go on LinkedIn every day. And I was like, you're a little software engineer. What are you going on LinkedIn every day for? And he was like, the content's good. And I was like, okay. So I took a chance. I started posting on LinkedIn more. I stopped posting on Instagram just to see what would happen. And LinkedIn gave me like 14 times the return that Instagram did. I was spending 14 hours a week on my Instagram marketing when I was doing it the way that I felt, to the caliber that I felt I needed to effectively do it. And I was spending maybe an hour a day on LinkedIn. And I was getting followers so rapidly. I grew to 5,000 followers from 1,000 in 1 year this year. It took me 5 years on Instagram to get 3,000 followers. And they weren't even like clicking through to things. Like on LinkedIn, people can click through to things more easily. Your impressions, the way that you get impression, like it's all, I can just write almost all my posts are text posts or have like a GIF attached to them. It's so low effort for me because I'm a writer and I love to write and I love to network. So it's the perfect platform for me. I find myself, I'll go on there and I'll engage for 15 minutes. I set timers so that I don't doom scroll. I'll engage with people for 15 minutes and about half the comments I write while I'm engaging, I'm like, oh, that would make a good post. And then I go and I create a post and I schedule it for later based on that inspiration that I just had. Or like I'll do a coaching call and I'll be like, oh, that would make a great post. And then I go and write it and I schedule it for later. Whereas with Instagram, when I have those ideas, I like, okay, now I have to be on video. I have to like go record my video. Okay, now I have to edit it and post it. And it has to be like perfectly aesthetic. And I have to like make the caption good. And then like, I should probably repurpose it in multiple things. It's only going to last 24 hours in the Instagram algorithm. There are posts that I wrote like last October that are for some reason just like resurfacing. I wrote a post about like how passionate I am about adventure as a part of my one-on-one coaching launch. And it very clearly at the end is like, I'm offering one-on-one coaching to help people who also feel this way. Here's the link. Like there's a link in it. And it took off. I got like 2,100 views on it. There were comments or people liking it. Someone I went to college with connected with me after that. And I haven't talked to her in like 10 years. I'm just like, I didn't graduate college 10 years. Did I? No, 2016. We're not there yet. Whatever. 8 years. But like,
for me, I actually left uni almost 20 years ago.
Oh, that time is not real.
Like, I turned 40 in 2 weeks, and part of me is just like, yeah,
I would never guess.
Oh, thanks. You can come back. Oh my God, yeah. No, I've literally, as you've been talking, I've got an idea for that. I've got an idea for that.
Exactly.
And also, what's making me think about LinkedIn, going back to that blog idea, because I've got so many podcast episodes that can be, I've tried to turn them into blog posts because, you know, the indexing issue, but they're more show notes. I could create blogs and then publish them as articles on LinkedIn. It's exactly the same because all the SEO goes through LinkedIn as well, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. Yeah.
You know, I feel like the phrase, the magic is in what you are avoiding, fits this situation. There's magic over there we're missing out on.
It's also like, it's just another version of like, do your business your way, you know? Yeah. Like, I know that people hang out on Instagram that would like to hear from me, but like, I'm not doing Instagram marketing. Like, I don't enjoy it. It saps me of my energy. It's just not worth it to me. So why don't I do the thing that's like flowing out of me that I love? It's getting me guest speaking opportunities. It's getting me clients. Like, it makes me happy to show up there every day. All I do is LinkedIn content marketing for my coaching side of my business. I would say like the digital marketing and coaching are two separate sort of funnels, but I do LinkedIn content. I have free resources on my website that I built up over the past 4 years. I have free events, 1 a month that I do. It's a workshop that I've already done before, so it's not hard for me. And then I have my email newsletter. That's it. I'm not here to be a robot octopus. You know what I mean? Like, we cannot expect ourselves to be successful on 15 different platforms when we're half-assing every single one of them, you know? And like, it is so easy to figure out a system where it's like, okay, I write either I wrote a LinkedIn post that was kind of long and actually like really fruity, like there's a fruity, I mean like juicy, like there's a lot of information in it that's valuable. I will put that in my newsletter and then schedule that post to go out the week after my newsletter. And so I'm killing two birds with one stone. You know what I mean? Or I'll write a really great newsletter and I'm like, oh, this is my good LinkedIn post, schedule it to go out after. The best part about LinkedIn is that the scheduling feature is not glitchy and it's actually very easy to use. So like there'll be days when I'm feeling really inspired, mostly when I'm like about to start ovulating, like that first week and a half of your period. You're always like, I'll write like a month's worth of posts in that first week and a half. And then I schedule them out. And then if I need to slot something in, I can always reschedule it. But at least it's already there. And I don't really have to do a lot about it. And like, when I looked at the data, it just made so much sense for me to keep doing this. And the data just gave me even more information for it to be successful. And I can give you my content marketing guide if you want, for LinkedIn. But I also like want you to remember that you don't have to do it. You know what I mean?
No,
you don't have to.
No, and I think this is the second business I've grown on Instagram, and Instagram's like, you know, the thing that works, and I love it, and all of that. And I feel like I'm ready for a little bit of a pricey move. I want to try something else, you know, and
much like the government.
LinkedIn is it.
Yes. Follow the lead of all these MPs and make some big changes, you know?
Yeah. Oh, this has been so glorious, Rachel. Before I ask you, I don't want to stop talking to you, but but you know, I've got a child that I've got to feed soon, and all of those things. You know,
damn children,
and a dog to feed. But I would love to share where people can find you. Obviously, it's LinkedIn. I'm guessing they
for sure.
Rachel Meltzer. There you are. Is there anywhere else what's your podcast called? Where can people listen to that?
Yeah, my podcast is called The Guidebook. If you search The Guidebook, it should come up, or you can add my name to it. And Claire will be on it next year for sure. And you can always go to meltzerseltzer.com/start if you want to see like everything under the sun, all my free resources. I'm doing a free live workshop series next year. That is actually the live boot camp that I used to do for freelancers. It is everything A to Z you need to know, and it's completely free. So you can find that on my website and sign up for it if you want to hang out next year and get some good free stuff.
Brilliant. Right. I love all of this. And I'm definitely, if you'll have me, I'm definitely coming on the podcast.
Yes.
What do you wish you'd known 10 years ago that you know now?
Such a good question. I think I wish that I knew you don't need to have it all figured out. You can't predict the future. There's no such thing as perfect. Nobody's watching everything you're doing. It doesn't matter how fast you get there. You don't have to have a 10-year plan. You don't have to perfectly follow the plan. You can change your mind because you have no idea, like your favorite people you still haven't met yet. Your most exciting job opportunity you still haven't seen. Even you, Claire, like what do you got left? 20 more years of working? Your best job opportunity still hasn't come your way. I'm sure of it.
Rachel, I'm actually going to work I've got plans to work till I'm 90. This is my legacy. Yeah.
I do too. I think that when I'm done with coaching and freelance writing, I'm just going to write romance novels until I die.
Yeah. I'm almost finished my first book. And but I tell you what, I'm way off target, and I've given myself 2 weeks before I turn 40 to finish it. But I've planned a podcast episode for when it's done. How to write a book. I'm going to do a podcast episode. So
how to procrastinate writing a book.
I love it when I get into it. Oh my God, I love writing so much. But I need to prioritize it more, and that's my focus. But I'm literally going, I'm going to turn this into some cozy and write all day. And I've just got these beautiful visions of like my husband looking down and she's still going. Like there's what's her name? I think it's Nora Roberts. Noah, something like that. She writes for 8 hours a day.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I'd love to write for 8 hours a day. And I do.
So many authors do that. It's really remarkable, honestly.
Yeah. Love it. But I think I wanted to say this earlier when you were talking about when you are working on your business, what are you creating? Are you creating a business to sell, or are you creating a legacy? And I just feel like I want to create something that lives beyond me.
Yes.
So it's like, what's his name? Simon Sinek says,
yes,
it's the infinite game. You're here there's no end point. It's just enjoying the whole thing all the way. It's just, it feels so much better doing it like that.
Yeah, you're never going to arrive at the perfect place of anything. You're never going to have the perfect business or the perfect schedule or the perfect anything. It's not realistic. Like, arrival is death. I always say this. And like, okay, so stop expecting yourself to arrive. Like, just get on and off the train and see where it goes, I think that's a really good point. And that's part of why I switched careers. Like, when I was a teacher in school, it's like, yeah, I'm helping and impacting those kids, but the system I'm working in, I just felt so misaligned with that. I was like, this isn't helping the way that I want to be helping. I used to be, when I was a teenager, me and my dad and my sister were all in the fire department in our town. It was a volunteer fire department. And that was the first taste I really had of like actually helping people. I'm a trained EMT. And again, you're directly impacting someone's life and helping them. I was hospitalized for a mental health issue for a week, and just talking to those people in the hospital and realizing how much more optimistic I am than they are. And I know for a fact that I changed 5 people's life that I was in the hospital with, because each of them reach out to me. We talk. We still talk. We're still friends. I'm still friends with my roommate from the hospital, from the psych ward. And she's in a completely different place now. You know what I mean? Like, that's the stuff that I live for. Being able to help people who are like on the other side of the party line politically realize like abortion legalization isn't about, what you think it's about. It's just about women's health. It's not about like killing babies. It's about when someone's having a really bad pregnancy, being able to save their life, or like, that's why I'm doing coaching. Like, it's so much more important for me to see like the mom who wants to be able to stay at home with her kids but can't afford it, be able to do that. Or like the girl who wants to live in a van and change her life the way I did, be able to do that. That's what it's about,
Yeah. No, I mean, again, I'm in that boat. Where are we going to sail to in this boat, Rachel?
Exactly.
Go to the Caribbean. Like, bloody hell, let's go it. Caribbean, like an American?
You did.
Said it. I thought, oh, she says it differently, and it came out American. Caribbean. That's how we say it, Caribbean.
You've been hanging out with me too long.
Because I used to be a teacher as well. And when I was, again, good old Polly's going to have to listen to this.
Polly's a teacher too.
Yeah, Polly was a teacher too. And also we had very similar like starts in life. So we had this like, oh my God, you have this. But I think anybody that's attracted to the life of a teacher and you learn how to teach, doesn't that help with our businesses, knowing how to teach?
Yes.
But also that the addictive nature of seeing someone's transformation and that like thing that happens in their mind, like, oh my God, like this is going to be amazing. And oh my God, I can see a difference. I can see the light at the end of the tunnel. And those transformations can happen at so many different points in someone's life. And they can be tiny. Like, we can say one sentence and it can completely change someone's life. Or we can be deeply entrenched with their business, like in their head and one-to-one level. But we just got to show up as ourselves, just doing the thing to make the impact.
Totally. Oh, wow. What a good way to wrap that up. You're so good at this.
Done. The end. Bye.
Yeah.
We'll do our fake pretend goodbye. But no, honestly, Rachel, this has been glorious. I've loved it. Absolutely love chatting to you. And everybody needs to go and find Rachel and listen to her podcast. And everyone needs to go and find Polly Clover as well.
Oh, for sure. She's such a gem. If you're not already following her, like, get on it. I just love her. She's such a good human being.
Yeah. But don't go on Instagram. She's not on Instagram. She's LinkedIn.
Yeah. She's moved to LinkedIn. I convinced her. She actually, when we first started working together, she was like, I hate LinkedIn. I'm never going to use it. I don't even understand like why you spout LinkedIn so much. You just love it, don't you? And then she used LinkedIn for 1 month straight and she was like, I've seen the light. Like, she immediately jumped ship.
Well, I'm going to try it. I think it's going to be my January thing. Let's do, LinkedIn for January. See how
I'm
we
going to
go.
do a LinkedIn challenge next year, probably not in January though, but it's like an accountability challenge to set up your profile and get started getting clients that way if you want to join it.
I love that. Oh, God. Right. Pretend goodbye. We'll say it again.
Bye.
Rachel. Thank you. Thank you so much for listening to the No Rest for the Vivid podcast. Written, produced and hosted by Claire Hill, and music has been composed by my brother, Phil Vick.